Got a lot of goodies here. You like my shoes? You notice the shoes? Can you see them? I wore them special for this event. I'm a little nervous on what events I can wear them to, but I wore them. I got to meet with Bill Cosby a few weeks ago, and he loved them, so I wore them here. But to show I have common sense, as we were talking about, at 3 o'clock, I'm meeting with all the freshman federal legislators, which I'm speaking at. So I brought normal shoes just to show you. With all the Tea Party people, I don't think they would like my shoes. I'll put them here. I hope I don't forget them. Make sure someone reminds me, man. High schools suck. Colleges suck. They're so bad. And who loses? But the kids. Not the people teaching in them, not the people talking about them, the kids. And who loses the most? The disenfranchised kids, the low-income kids, the minority kids. They get all the repercussions of the schools not being good. And I think part of the problem in our country is about a definition of learning. I think we all have these funny, different definitions of learning. So if you remember Matthew yesterday, who was absolutely incredible, talking about, I don't know how old he was, climbing the mountains here, climbing 50 peaks in 50 days, and living with this tribe, and being in Bolivia for a month. And I asked him, I said, what's the story with your school? You know, it didn't seem like he was there very much. And I said, do they give you a problem? And he said, my Spanish teacher, and this kid, you could see, was a brilliant young man, learner. He said, my Spanish teacher, when I was in Bolivia, she was mad, wouldn't give me any credit, and marked me down for living in Bolivia for a month, speaking Spanish, learning the culture, and that was like, whoa, it's just a different definition of learning. Until we change that, I think our country's in trouble. And Sal talked about one student at a time, and I'm very lucky today because one of my students that was in my high school here in Providence and now in the college happened to have an internship at BIF, and she's walking around here someplace. So I'm going to have Alicia talk a little about her experience to just get there. She is. All right.
Like Dennis said, I was a Big Picture student, but before I went to Big Picture, school did suck, so I agree. And
watch your language.
My mom's not here. So I went to the Met, and when I went to the Met, I wanted to actually be a pediatrician, but the Met was able to allow me to be able to experience the ability to want to pursue different things and be able to just explore my options. And so I went from pediatrics to marine biology, and I did that for 3 years at the Met. But overall, I really, really had a hobby and interest and passion, and that was hair. I love doing styling hair, as you can see. So I was applying for college, and I wanted to go to Rhode University, and then I heard more about College Unbound, and I was like, you know, I think I want to stay on direction of hands-on learning, because that's what I was doing, that's what I known, and so I was able to do that, and I went to College Unbound, and it was an amazing experience. My first college internship was here with BIF. I love the bubbles, by the way. I was with BIF, and I had the opportunity to learn how to conduct interviews, to talk with great people and interview them, like Daniel Pink, he's a cool guy. Les Schlesinger, who was here yesterday, I interviewed him. So I was able to get out of my comfort zone. The team actually literally pulled me out of my comfort zone to be able to interact and network with people. And I was able to, through College Unbound, travel. I went to Africa and worked with kids in Africa, and I went to India and worked with this woman, Karen Bursethi. She has a TED Talk, and she talks about her design for education and design for change. And it's an amazing program where students all over the world who are talking about and doing things that are surrounded by innovation as well in their own way feel, imagine, do, and share. They feel a situation as a problem in their community, they do something about it, and they share it. It was just an amazing experience, and I thank College Unbound, I thank Dennis, I thank the BIF team for being able to be there for me, and most importantly, I thank God for being able to give me this opportunity to be a student here, stand here before you today as a College Unbound graduating senior 2011, May 18th, and I'm excited.
Woo! Thank you, Steve. You know, when I asked Alicia, when I saw her here, and she said she was going to be here to talk, I took this out of my office. A sculptor made it for me, and this is how I think education is. And it's kind of like Michelangelo talked about when he saw a piece of granite, he saw his figure inside there. So when Alicia came to us, she was in there. We didn't have to, like, put knowledge into her. She's in there. And we have to keep chipping away and giving the kinds of experiences. I mean, she changed so much when she went to Africa and came back and then said, I got to go again, and went and worked in India. And this is the hope that happens, is that the teacher and the environment keep chiseling away until our kids can really take off. And back to schools suck. What happens to me is, by being on the ground and working, you get very angry because you really see what's going on. And then you start looking at some of the facts. And while I was sitting here listening to all the speakers, I decided every 12 seconds to cut out a piece of paper. And every 12 seconds, I won't put them on the ground because Sal will make me clean them up instead of eating. Every 12 seconds, I cut out one of these. And from the time we started this morning at 8:30 to the time I started here, 900 kids have dropped out of high school. And it's incredible when you just look at that and you look at, while I'm talking, all this. And it's kind of freaky when I sit there and start, oh, another kid. And this is 24 hours a day. This is the summer. It's not just the school time. And from the time we arrived at the conference, 9,600 kids till 4 o'clock today have dropped out of school. And something's not right about that. And that's the part that gets me very, very angry. And that's when I've really committed my whole life to making change in schools. And I'll go through it real quickly, but I was trained as a psychologist. I got a first job as a community organizer in a poor district in New York. Then I got a job at a university to be a teacher trainer, and then I realized the real work was out in the classroom, and I went and applied for a job as a principal, and they said, why are you taking a step down? Step down, I said. This is where the action is. And I got very lucky. I got to set up my brand new school and hire people at 27 years old. Develop that into a beautiful middle school. And I'm one of those people that work, like probably many of you, I only have 2 speeds. I'm either off or on. And so I had worked 10 years on. I'm one of those 80-hour-a-week guys. And then I knew that there are other parts of me that need to be developed. And I had bought a little cabin in the woods. And I stopped working. I was 35 and moved to the cabin in the woods. I didn't know the word off the grid at the time, but it had no electricity, no water. And I wasn't burnt out. People ask me, were you burnt out? I wasn't burnt out, but I know there's times in how you balance your life that you need to use other parts of you. I knew I had to develop my soul more. I knew I didn't need to be responsible for all these people every day. And it was a pretty amazing experience. I did a lot there because that's me. And I started a town newspaper, and I joined the PTA, and I actually became a legislator, but it was my time in doing that. And I worked that till I ran out of money. I had $200 left. And the town I lived in was a very poor town in New Hampshire. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, my first job, I always get fired wherever I go, duh. How many people have been fired here? All right, how many people really been fired? Let's get all the hands out, man. All right. My first job, I was 27 years old, had a big beard, hired all young people, and they went after me for a couple years, and I never left, and that was kind of cool. And at the end, the people who tried to fire me were the people who threw a party for me, and I always used to brag about that, but I think I got it wrong. I think they finally got rid of me by throwing that party, but I thought they liked me at the end. I took over the job in my town as a principal at Thayer High, and I was doing pretty well, and even by everyone's data, I was doing well. And then all of a sudden, they tried to fire me. It became a 2-year battle, very ugly battle, and it was kind of like a right-wing Phyllis Schlafly group that was following me around. And we ended up winning the battle. And the cool part is they're fighting against me did the opposite. Somebody wrote a book. NBC, I have here, went out and did a movie called A Town Torn Apart, which is not too cool of a title. Michael Tucker from LA Law played me. Yes, I'm better looking than Michael Tucker. And taller, by the way. But and then I got called to Brown University. Our school was the first school working with Ted Sizer was here. And I won the battle in New Hampshire and stayed another 6 years. So I was there for 14 years and then came to Brown to do some work at Annenberg Institute. And then the commissioner said, we have a school that we want to do. Would you do it? And I really didn't want to do another school. But I said to him in my bold, brash way, only if I can do exactly how I want. And he said yes. So that means I had to say yes. And we really, my buddy and I, Elliot, kind of closed our eyes and said, if we didn't know there was such a thing as school, what would it be? And that's what Sal talked about. It's one student at a time. It's not classes. You're not going 45 minutes and learning some content that doesn't have to do with anything, going to the next class. But it was taking every kid, finding their interest, finding their passion, finding people in the community that they could work with, and then building all their basics around that. People laughed at us. Said, no tests, come on, no classes, what are you going to do? And then our first graduating class in 2000, we had a 2% dropout rate. The city had a 46% dropout rate, and you only got in by lottery. We had 100% of our kids went off to college. We had a 97% attendance rate. Duh. You know, because you were doing stuff, thank you. Who clapped there? You can come on and get the movie when you're done, man. You know, I was going to say it's not rocket science, but the guy told me not to say that anymore. Because it's after the fact, man. But the kids were engaged. They were doing something they loved. Why not work at a vet's place that you love animals and be able to work in the operating room? Why not work with two amazing computer geeks that were like you at a store where they needed your knowledge? Because at 14, you knew different things than they did. And then when you came back, you didn't have to get into boring classes. You built projects around there. It just made a lot of sense. And lucky for us, Bill Gates was just starting to do education stuff, sent his top man out to our place, talked to Elliot and I, knew we were BSing him, went in the lunchroom, talked to our kids, came out and said, here's $5 million, give me 10 of these. I fell down, got up. He said it again. I fell down again. So we built 10 schools, just like this school. Then they gave us another $20 million, and we now have 60 schools around the country, 20 in Australia and 20 in the Netherlands. And so it's been pretty exciting. But then I got angry again, okay? And actually, I just pulled this off my wall today. We had a hand reader come and read the hands of all our principals. At a company, he didn't know anything about me. And he talks about spiritual advisor, meaning therapist, high energy, and then said, I need skeptics to fight me that I have to prove they're wrong to get my results. So it really helped me. It's like now when people are telling me I'm a jerk or thinking the opposite thing, I just smile and say, all right, I'm going to move on more. Thank you very much. And I got angry again about college. All right? You saw how many high school kids drop out? College is worse. So any kid who's a first-generation kid, first kid in his family to go to college, who graduates from high school and goes to college, if he's first generation, 89% of those kids drop out. That's absurd. It's criminal. You got to do something about that. And our kids are doing pretty well because we follow them, we do all this work, we meet with their parents when they're off at college, but I still saw them coming back. And not only did they come back out of college, but they owed $30,000. And so that's when I said, I'm good at starting stuff and executing stuff, so let's start a college and start going around talking to presidents. And finally, I got a visionary president at Roger Williams who said, go for it. And we gathered students from around the country, just a small group. A couple people in this audience helped support us, thought the idea was good enough to get us off the ground. And using the same model, okay, it's find out what their interests are, find out what their passions are, put them out in that community. Alicia grew by traveling. I had to get her to India. She was starting to go down a little again. Get her into an environment where she could learn. And then she came back and she was excited. So we struggled the first year learning about this. Then we got some older kids coming our second year. And the beauty is, I announced here on stage a few years ago that we were starting the college. And now Alicia and 10 other students will be the first graduating class in May. So it's... And people have talked about failure a lot, and it's one of the things I was thinking about. Like, a lot of things didn't go right, but it's not, I don't even look at it as failure. If you have that faith there that what you're doing is right, then the failure is you got the wrong people doing it, or you got the little wrong method. But it's really not failure. You just keep doing it and keep going for it. And then we've kind of iterated into, I tried to match the model into adult learners. There are 37 million adult learners in this country that started college, dropped out, and ain't never going back. They're not going to sit in the classroom at Brown. They're not being online. And so we started a program with them that allows them to go full-time if they want to improve in their work. So there's a teacher aide, want to be a teacher. That's her internship. So she doesn't have to be out every night. And then we build all the programs around it and integrate with their life. We have a couple ex-cons that are working at our at this Institute for Nonviolence that are very interested in the whole recidivism, people being out of jail, going back in jail. They're working on that. They love it. They're doing it while they're at their job, and we're giving credit. So they will have a bachelor's degree. They will have learned to think deeply and broadly, and I think we're on to something. So that's basically the story. And when I'm thinking about this group, I was saying to Sal, like, how do you use everybody in a way? I had the idea that every speaker had to talk about the speaker before them, and you keep having a conversation. But here's one thing I would love. We build our whole program around giving people also, as Alicia was talking about, a social network, people they can call on, people that can support them in different ways. So my Twitter number is in the page there, and I would love, as we're trying to find for these adult learners and Alicia's class, we're trying to find what I call e-mentors around the country. It doesn't have to just be here. So if you have something you want to talk to, that you'll be able to talk to somebody about mountain climbing, or about technology, or about health, or about global giving, I would love you to tweet me and say, hi, I would be happy to be hooked up with somebody and talk about global giving. And then we'll give it to the students, and we're expanding their role, and it allows us all to be involved. So thank you. This is Keep Yelling at Me. Peace.